The clown mask reveal. John Carpenter opens Halloween with the franchise's most emotionally devastating sequence. We experience Judith Meyer's murder through the killer's eyes, a prowling POV shot as they stalk through the house, retrieve a kitchen knife, pull on a clown mask, and climb the stairs to the second floor. Judith sits at her vanity in her bedroom, brushing her hair after her boyfriend leaves, completely vulnerable and unaware. The murder is swift but vicious, multiple stab wounds as she screams before collapsing. The killer walks calmly down the stairs and out the front door where Judith's parents are just arriving home. They stare at the small figure standing in the yard, still holding the bloody knife. Then Carpenter pulls off the mask. The killer is 6-year-old Michael Myers, Judith's little brother. Everything transforms in that instant. This wasn't a stranger's violence, this was a child murdering his teenage sister. Judith died thinking she was safe, murdered by someone who should have represented safety itself. The hanging tree. Wes Craven's Scream opens with Drew Barrymore's Casey Becker alone at home, making popcorn. The phone rings and a stranger starts asking innocent questions about scary movies. The conversation turns sinister as the caller reveals he's watching her and has her boyfriend Steve tied up outside. Casey runs through the house trying to escape, but Ghostface catches her. She fights desperately, clawing, screaming, struggling, but she's overpowered, stabbed multiple times and strangled. Her parents arrive home moments too late, calling her name as they search the house. Then Casey's mother walks outside and sees her daughter's body hanging from a tree in the front yard, gutted and displayed. The scream that follows is primal, a mother discovering her child murdered. Casey did everything to survive, fought harder than most victims, but it wasn't enough. Help was so close, just minutes away. The gymnastics beam. Final Destination 5's Candace Hooper represents everything good that death's design destroys. She's a dedicated gymnast training for a championship, talented, focused, and resilient. While other characters descend into paranoia after surviving the bridge collapse premonition, Candace pours herself into training, refusing to let fear control her. We watch her practice with precision and grace. Director Stephen Quayle builds her death with excruciating suspense at the gymnastics facility. The camera notices details she doesn't: a loose screw, chalk dust, and leaking water. A chain reaction involving another gymnast causes a cloud of chalk to blow into Candace's face while she's mid-swing. Blinded and losing her grip, she flies off the bars and lands with a sickening splat. She trained for years, had discipline and dreams, and did everything right. She dies in a flash, her body destroyed by chance disguised as cosmic punishment. If you're enjoying these videos, subscribe now. It helps me make more of these videos. Anyways, the puppet strings. A Dream Warriors introduces Philip Anderson, a quiet boy whose sleepwalking makes him Freddy's perfect target. Sensitive and creative, Philip is one of the franchise's most vulnerable characters, deeply afraid of the body he cannot control while he sleeps. Freddy exploits this vulnerability by transforming Philip into a living marionette. In the film's most disturbing sequence, Freddy slices open Philip's limbs, pulling out his tendons to use as puppet strings. Philip is forced out of bed and through the hospital, his body jerked along by an invisible master toward a high window. Philip is fully conscious, his face contorted in agony as he realizes he is a passenger in his own skin. He cries out for help, but his friends can only watch in horror as he reaches the ledge. Freddy snips the strings and Philip plunges to his death. The tragedy is compounded when the staff dismisses it as a simple sleepwalking accident, ignoring the true evil that puppeteered his final moments. The hanging. Child's Play 2 introduces Phil and Joanne Simpson, the foster parents who take in Andy Barclay. Phil is the strict balance to Joanne's warmth, remaining deeply skeptical of Andy's claims that Chucky is alive. He views Andy's behavior as a threat to the stability of his home, even suggesting the boy be sent back to the center when things get chaotic. When Chucky infiltrates the home, Phil becomes an obstacle. Hearing a struggle in the basement, Phil finds Andy armed with an electric knife and assumes the boy is dangerous. As Phil descends the stairs to intervene, Chucky trips him. Phil is left dangling from the stairs by his neck before Chucky sneers, "How's it hangin', Phil?" and drops him. Phil dies instantly from a broken neck. The tragedy isn't just Phil's death, but the fact that his skepticism led him to blame the victim, allowing Chucky to destroy the only stable home Andy had left. The ladder. Final Destination 2 opens with Kimberly Corman envisioning a catastrophic highway pileup. Among those who die is Evan Lewis, a lottery winner who survives the initial crash in reality. Death soon comes for Evan in his apartment, where he believes he's safe. The sequence builds with mundane details becoming deadly: a spark-showering microwave, a grease fire, and a stuck hand. Evan narrowly avoids several threats, including a massive apartment explosion, by leaping onto the fire escape. He reaches the ground and breathes a sigh of relief, declaring himself lucky. However, he slips on the old spaghetti he had tossed out the window earlier. As he lies on his back, the fire escape ladder, which had been jammed, suddenly releases. It slides down the track and impales Evan directly through the eye, proving that his luck has finally run out. The Zombie Kid. In Night of the Living Dead, zombie horror's most devastating deaths happen within families. Throughout the film, Harry and Helen Cooper's young daughter Karen lies sick in the farmhouse basement, having been bitten during their escape. Helen checks on her repeatedly, desperate to believe the infection won't be fatal. The film confirms the bite early on, but the slow progression of her illness leaves a flickering, agonizing hope that she might recover. When zombies breach the house, Helen's maternal instinct drives her downstairs to protect her daughter. Karen has died and reanimated. The little girl stands, approaches her mother with dead eyes, and kills Helen with a masonry trowel, repeatedly stabbing her while Helen screams in absolute horror. Karen then returns to her father's corpse to continue her feast. Helen dies in a cacophony of terror, murdered by the child she spent her final hours trying to save. The Elevator. Final Destination 2 features one of the franchise's most shocking deaths with Nora Carpenter's elevator decapitation. Following the brutal death of her teenage son, Tim, Nora is a shell of her former self, weighed down by a grief that makes her a tragic figure among the survivors. Nora is leaving a safe house with fellow survivor Eugene when they enter an elevator occupied by an old man carrying a box of prosthetic limbs. Startled by a warning call from Officer Burke, Nora drops her phone and accidentally snags her hair on a prosthetic hook. Fearing for her life, she panics and tries to flee the elevator, but the doors malfunction and trap her neck. As the elevator begins to rise, Nora, who had previously said she was ready to be with her family, screams, "I don't want to die." The lift's relentless upward momentum eventually decapitates her in front of the horrified survivors. It remains a devastating moment because Nora was killed by the very panic intended to save her. The drowning doc. Friday the 13th. Part 7 opens with young Tina Shepard witnessing her abusive father striking her mother during a violent argument. Fleeing to a boat to escape the chaos, Tina's fear and rage overwhelm her dormant telekinetic powers as her father follows her onto the dock. The wood begins to shake and splinter. Her father falls into the dark lake water, and Tina psychically pulls the wooden supports underwater before she can comprehend what's happening. He drowns, trapped beneath the collapsing structure, and Tina watches it all, screaming and crying, knowing she caused it with her mind. The film presents Tina's father as both abuser and victim, a man whose violence terrorized his family but whose death was still an absolute tragedy for the child who killed him. Tina spends the next several years in psychiatric institutions, consumed by guilt, unable to forgive herself for becoming her father's executioner. The Attic Scissors, Halloween 4. Established Rachel Carruthers as young Jamie Lloyd's devoted older stepsister, the teenager who protected Jamie from Michael Myers when every adult failed. Rachel wasn't Jamie's biological sister, but their bond felt genuine and hard-earned. She survived Halloween 4 by being smart, resourceful, and fiercely protective. Audiences loved Rachel because she prioritized the child's safety over everything else. Halloween 5 kills Rachel unceremoniously in the first act. Michael stalks her through the house before stabbing her in the chest with a pair of scissors. We see the cold, sudden murder, followed by Jamie's psychic reaction. Rachel deserved better than this abrupt dismissal after earning her survival through genuine heroism. The telephone pole. Ari Aster's Hereditary introduces 13-year-old Charlie Graham as an odd, isolated girl disconnected from reality. She makes clicking sounds with her tongue and creates disturbing art from dead animals. The first act, we expect Charlie to be the film's central figure, perhaps possessed by the demon Paimon. Then, 30 minutes in, Charlie dies in a way that feels cosmically cruel. Peter takes Charlie to a party where she eats cake containing nuts. She's severely allergic. Her throat closes as she struggles to breathe. Peter panics, driving frantically toward the hospital. Charlie leans her head out the window, gasping for air, and Peter swerves to avoid roadkill. Charlie's head strikes a telephone pole with a sickening thud. Instant decapitation. Peter drives in shock, the camera holding on his face, and only when he arrives home does he stop, staring forward. Charlie's headless body in the backseat. The hospital headshot. For 25 years, Dewey Riley survived as the Scream franchise's emotional heart. In Scream 2022, Dewey is divorced, drinking, and living in a trailer, deliberately isolated from the world until the new murders pull him back in. When Sam and Tara are attacked, Dewey can't stay away. He saves the group at Woodsboro Memorial, shooting Ghostface multiple times. But remembering the headshot rule,
you have to shoot him in the head, or they always come back.
He sends the others to safety and returns to finish the job. As he prepares to fire, a distraction allows Ghostface to spring up. They fight brutally, but the killer overpowers him, using 2 knives to disembowel Dewey in a horrific dual-blade strike. Gail arrives at the hospital moments too late, her screams echoing through the halls as she realizes the man who survived everything is finally gone. The sleeping bag slam. Friday the 13th. Part 7 features one of the franchise's most brutal kills when Jason Voorhees encounters Judy in her tent near Crystal Lake. She is waiting for her boyfriend to return, completely unaware that Jason has already murdered him. When Jason shreds the tent wall with a machete, a panicked Judy retreats into her sleeping bag, hoping to hide in the fabric. Jason ignores his weapon, instead picking up the sleeping bag with Judy trapped inside. She struggles and screams as he drags her outside. In the franchise's most iconic display of brute strength, Jason swings the bag like a pendulum, slamming it with a sickening thud against a large pine tree. In the theatrical cut, a single impact is enough to silence her forever. He drops the bag and walks away, leaving her broken inside the very thing meant to keep her safe. What makes this particularly haunting is the sheer simplicity of the act, a display of power that rendered Judy completely helpless. Thanks for sticking around through this journey into horror's saddest deaths. I'll see you in the next one.